discussion on level up game development using generative AI. We have Anand Gandhi as a producer, Anuj Tandon from Jetsynthsys. We have Deepak M from Nazara Technologies, and this panel will be moderated by Samir Pitalwala.
Hello. Hi. Thank you all for coming. I think we are missing Aakash. I believe there were some late nights at IGDC, so Aakash is probably indisposed. But thank you, Anand, Anuj, and Deepak for making the time to come here. So, exciting times given what's happening with AI and games. And Anand would be probably a good way to kick things off is just to give a quick introduction for each one of you, and maybe I'll just start with you since you're on my left. So yeah. Just a quick introduction. What are you all up to right now?
Hi, I'm Anand Gandhi. I've been using a vast variety of media to express and create a wide variety of culture over the last 15 years, 20 years. I made films like Tumbad, Ship of Theseus. I've produced non-fiction feature films like An Insignificant Man. I've produced tabletop games like Shasan, Azadi, etc. Produced TV shows. In fact, a couple of our work in the past has been about, in the last decade, has been about AI, but in speculative science fiction, way before AI happened. Created a virtual reality company 7 years ago called ElseVR, one of the world's first documentary virtual reality companies. So I've been very excited about using this exponential evolution that we have been able to witness and experience in our lifetime of tools and technology that enable and augment our ability to transmit ideas, insights, expressions to each other. And that's really what we do. We look at the greatest breakthroughs that we have at our disposal as a civilization, the greatest ideas that we come upon, and synthesize them and translate them in simplest possible ways in games and films. So we make games and films, but we look at the best ideas that we need as a civilization and make them super entertaining. That's more entertaining than I introduce myself.
Thanks for that, Anand. Anuj?
Hi guys, my name is Anuj Tandon. I've been in the gaming industry for the last 14 years in multiple roles as an entrepreneur first, operator and investor. So at this point, not operating stuff, so I can give you a, zoomed out view a little more about AI and what we talk about. But I see a lot of companies building stuff so that's my knowledge at. Okay. Keep it short.
Thank you. Deepak?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Deepak. I lead AI analytics at Nazara. I also lead a gaming studio as the CEO as well. Besides what I do at Nazara, I'm also the Asia lead for Gaming Incubation and Acceleration Association globally, where there are more than 100 entities across 40 plus countries. Prior to gaming, I have been in multiple other industries, scaling startups from 0 to 1 and helping large organizations drive strategic change. AI is what we are right now extensively working at Nazara. We have a AI first initiatives approach. So there is a lot what's happening there, and would be happy to share some of it during the discussion.
So Deepak, let's just start with you then. Where are you currently using AI and in any form at Nazara?
So what we have done is fundamentally we have looked at AI's use cases across two dimensions. One is how do you create better player experiences? That's one pillar. Second is how do you drive operational efficiencies, automating various work streams which we have in a game dev studio. So these are two pillars. Under these pillars, one, we are looking at, and when I'm talking about AI, I think Gen AI use cases versus the ML use cases, both are coming in together in many ways. So for example, we are looking at automating aspects like QA, engineering assistant, art and design, support. So this is on the automation side in terms of how we are looking at AI to become an enabler for the work streams to go better in terms of time, efficiency, and quality. On the other hand, player experiences, we are looking at how do we create newer games, newer levels, newer content, and that's how we are looking at the whole player experience side.
Anuj, in your experience at Jetsynthsys as well as previously and also now as an angel investor, where all are you seeing sort of opportunities in the space?
I think breaking down on following up on what he said is two aspects of it, right? One is the supply chain of gaming and where it is getting disrupted using AI. One is probably creating games and creating early prototypes is where I see the maximum amount of usage of co-pilots. And I was talking to someone and we were just discussing in the global gaming markets what we are seeing is the script writers in terms of using co-pilots are being upgraded to engineers. So there's a lot of skilling happening at the mid-level in the supply chain of gaming for engineering. Art obviously is the biggest impact in terms of creating quick prototypes has become much faster for mid-sized studios and small-sized studios. And the only aspects which are untouched by AI in gaming supply chain is probably design. Product and live ops also is now, there are many tools available, where you can convert your video ads into in-app purchases and those flows. There are tools available that can help you programmatically do that without a human touch interface as well. So I think there is a huge supply chain disruption happening for mobile games and overall games in general is where I see the first application. The second is, building B2C consumer outcomes for in-game stuff. For example, virtual avatars, NPCs, which can be smarter, creating smarter bots for solving the liquidity problem in multiplayer games. All of these aspects within AI in gaming are the second wave of sort of impact for the gamers that is affecting. So I think there's an overall shift happening. I think where will it land, how effective it will be is something to be seen. But there's a definite, I would say, to the size of a seismic shift in terms of supply chain in gaming, which I see the most impact happening.
You made an interesting point about how design is something that may not be currently in the ambit and love for now. But before we get to Anand, Aakash, a quick round of introductions for yourself, and then maybe we can
and also what happened,
get you
why you late.
yeah. A good explanation
I'm late
of that
because
would
it
be
was
nice.
hard to find hall one. The last 10 minutes it took me to find hall one. Quick introduction, Aakash, managing partner at Z47, earlier known as Matrix Partners India. We invest in seed to Series B across sectors, typically anywhere between $3 to $30 million.
Thanks, Aakash. So Anand, as somebody, I think Shasan is probably the highest selling board game currently in India. And you've been kind of playing around using AI tools in order to tell stories, especially what you're doing at Maya as well. Yeah. Are you seeing the use case of these in a different form factor? Like I think Deepak spoke about how it's mostly these are digital products. You're building a physical product as a game. So any use cases that you see currently which you have been kind of seen a good traction with?
So, I kind of agree with the use cases. I mean, these use cases have become increasingly obvious. We have been speculating about these use cases for a century. For the last 7-8 years, we've been increasingly seeing, even pre-LLM, even before LLM became the solution, there were use cases were out in the open. We knew what speculatively we knew what we were going to use AI for. Of course, when we start talking about micro solutions, when talking about micro design problems like some of the ones that you mentioned within supply chain, within behavior design, within experience design, there are going to be a million micro problems that we are always going to be able to identify and get AI.
So let's talk about say Shasan or Azadi.
Yeah,
you launched Azadi right now. Have you used any of these tools?
Yes, I mean, of course, like there is no not using it.
Yeah.
It's like we have always been active adopters of whatever tools come out, and we use them very actively. But ours has always been like a bit of a long game, in the sense that we have always taken a step up outside of the stream and looked at the stream and asked ourselves the question of where is this going, and how are we going to stay relevant as creators? And that's, of course, an increasingly existential question for a lot of creators in the world. When rapidly 99.9% of creative legwork is going to be taken away by something that was once only promised to do the accounting legwork, or the engineering legwork, is a fascinating new challenge for us. And that's where we operate also. So when we talk about Azadi, yes, of course, a lot of legwork we share with AI. Increasingly, not the previous drafts, Shasan, Azadi, all the new tabletop games that you know about, Macaroon, even the cricket-themed tabletop games that are coming out. A lot of co-authoring, co-piloting happens with AI, no questions about it. Levels testing, reward testing, ideas of even behavior engineering. Because at the end of the day, when we are talking about design, what we are talking about, whether it's architecture, filmmaking, or games, we are essentially talking about behavior design. We're talking about creating a wide variety of stimuli and recipes of stimuli that will create very specific responses in people that can be increasingly predicted and engineered. So we are talking about behavior engineering when we are talking about any game design. And that's where, of course, AI is becoming increasingly capable and exponentially capable of helping in behavior engineering. So what remains really for us, and the more exciting question, of course, and this is not to kind of say that that's not exciting, that is very exciting, to look at how behavior engineering and behavior design can be co-piloted using AI tools that are increasingly available to us. But more than that, what's exciting for us is what do we do with it? And that's really where we stay relevant for a little while longer. Probably for another year till AGI comes around and then makes us existential again. But till what is most relevant for us is the question of giving people what they don't know they yet want. AI's prediction limitations are still, I'm not saying that this is going to stay the case for another year or 2 years, but right now the prediction is as good as the 99.9% authors of the world, or creators or game designers of the world, who end up doing what has worked largely, and which is good, which works for most use cases. But we have always played the long game. We have always been excited and invested in finding what the world needs, what the world wants, but does not yet know how to articulate. And that's where we are brainstorming with AI. That's, I think, the most cutting edge use of AI that I think is happening at our studio, which makes me most excited, which is brainstorming with it about its own limitations, brainstorming it and pushing it to understand and try and comprehend how humans will be interacting with narrative media and narrative experiences in the next couple of years. So one insight I'll just share with you is that increasingly we are realizing that the more privileged the community becomes, the more time they want, the greater the exodus from digital domain. Virtual domains are for communities that do not have, increasingly so, that do not have the privilege to spend enough in physical domains. So if you look at the most privileged economies in the world, you'll see that those are the economies where people are spending most amount of time not being on computers, not being on phones. They're spending more time with their families, they're spending more time traveling, they're spending more time on tabletop games. And that's one insight that we gathered in the last couple of years, where we saw that in the last 3 years, since we entered the tabletop gaming space with Shasan, and it was a $9 billion industry. Within 3 years, it's become a $21 billion industry. So it's like really a sleeper industry that has been exponentially booming. And we think that aligns with the thesis that I was presenting, which is that increasingly, as we find ourselves being manipulated, being behavior engineered by our own tools, the smarter amongst us, the more privileged amongst us are going to try and find time to engage with culture, engage with each other in domains that are not necessarily directly so influential, which is digital. So we are investing a lot in that. We are investing a lot in games that are physical, experiential, that are outside of the digital as well. And that's something that continues to excite me a lot.
Sounds good. So it sounds like you're using this almost like a co-pilot, right? From designing the lore to designing sort of, I'm assuming a lot of the box covers and design. Aakash, coming to you, if you want, I'm assuming what Anand is saying, that if you want AppDAO of, $10,000, build a board game. Where are you seeing sort of your view from your precipice? Are you seeing any games and interactive media beginning to use AI in a lot of the companies that come to you?
So we see it across the board, right? I think it boils down to almost the journey of how interactive media as an industry has gone through, right? I think two vectors always play out. So I agree with Anand that there's this third space, tabletop, all of those things exist. But eventually, if you think about it, personalization and capturing attention with personalization has pretty much been the singular vector of all media, right? We've gone from broadcast to first generation of interactive to where we are today, right? And when you play out those vectors, what AI does is allow you to do personalization beyond whatever we could do today, right? Anuj was talking about how within the digital production pipeline you can do so much, but something that we are seeing and we are more excited about, and I'll use it as an example, which the gaming industry is still trying to adopt, but others in media have already adopted. And this has happened for the first time ever, right? Because gaming is typically the one which leads to the innovation, is purely the personalization vector. What does that mean? We talk about saying that, hey, if you think of something like Netflix or any platforms like that, they're typically still this barbell, right? They have this hits and they have a long tail of content, right? And what they are doing as a business is typically trying to generate those hits, right? We are already seeing in media and not yet in gaming that the same strategy is being juiced out to its maximum by leveraging AI in production. Because when you leverage AI in production, you're bringing down your cost to get to a hit and your time to get to a hit drastically. Like to the extent that some places, some domains like graphic novels and many others, they've brought down the time to produce a graphic novel by 1/5. They've brought down the cost to produce a graphic novel by 1/4. That means today, if they have to build a full loop of finding a hit, they get there with probably, they can run through hundreds much faster than someone else who was building graphic novels could earlier, right? And when we're talking about the attention economy, this is what matters the most, right? And I think gaming beyond production leverage and these micro sort of advantages that we draw from AI today, I think in gaming also now we need to step up and start saying that, hey, if we have to deliver at the end, as the Netflix CEO says, we are competing for sleep, you're competing for time, my competition is sleep. I think it's true for everyone in this industry, right? We are all competing for the same attention.
I'll slightly disagree with him. Sorry, I'm cutting you
Great,
off.
nothing like a fight. I love a panel fight.
As usual.
I mean, I would like to disagree with him on two fronts. I think, first of all, gaming is hard. Building games is harder compared to the other, and I have all due respect to the other media and entertainment industry. I mean, I will give a simple anecdotal example. When TikTok was banned in India, there were 5 TikTok-like products within 3 months. When PUBG got banned in India, it has taken 3 years, multiple dollar investments to get battle royale games going out in India. Game production, in engineering, art, incredibly hard. It's not an easy thing to build. I think that's why the supply chain disruption that you are seeing is happening faster in media and entertainment, because content generation in itself, and I've seen that in subgenres of gaming. For example, games like Choices, and where the content generation, you're on a treadmill of generating content every week, etc. I think that is a low-hanging fruit where the supply disruption has happened at a faster level. I think it will catch up, and I think that's where the opportunity or the alpha to invest in tools that can actually bring that faster. I just wanted to make that point.
And I think, and I agree, right? In gaming, obviously, the bar is higher. Like what all you need to solve for in the supply chain is higher. I think, but beyond the supply chain, as I said, personalization and cost of production, like 2 big vectors, right? And they're pretty much coupled, because if you have cheaper cost of production, you can really personalize as much as you want. I think on the personalization vector, I think gaming in general today, and this is not just generative AI, this is like in general deep learning and AI, barring the top few studios or few game makers, right? Most people don't use even deep learning or AI in trying to say that, hey, how do I really solve for driving growth, right? Whether it be driving retention, whether it be driving ARPDAU. I think, and especially in India, sadly, unfortunately, it's super rudimentary at this point of time. Forget even being deep learning oriented. I think, and those are now becoming far more democratized, right? What you're seeing, so I think it's not just the generative AI wave, right? A big shift which is happening is actually also on deep learning and AI in general getting democratized. The barrier for being able to leverage it going down, right? And I think that's one thing that all game makers should latch onto very fast.
So Deepak, with Nazara, you've kind of seen a whole spectrum, right? From media and entertainment, you have Nodwin, you have Sportskeeda, which I would say are publications and also an esports firm. But then you also have like these folks who have built deep IP like Fusebox, which are actually running these narrative games and making good money at it. With your new sort of mandate of looking at AI, how are you thinking of using the tools across the board, or how are you seeing this impact? Which parts of this sort of businesses that Nazara owns do you think are going to be impacted, either in terms of becoming more efficient in terms of cost, or basically being able to dream larger and execute bigger projects?
So I think we've already spoken about the player experiences and the operational change which we are seeing in terms of AI implementation. So what at Nazara, what we are trying to do, so for example, we today serve over 100 monthly active users across multiple countries. With that, AI is now the lever how we want to leverage is to have that kind of a overarching view of how our players are engaging with our games and creating, like, for example, we never had a one Nazara player kind of a view. So I'm saying that's very important today for an ecosystem like us, where we have, it's not that all our games serve different audiences. There are overlaps as well, and there are a lot of learning which come in. So creating that one Nazara to look at player engagement at that level, instead of looking at only at silos, which is important itself because they have, each individual subsidiary has their own ways of driving that. So that's one change which we are looking at to kind of see how we can leverage AI to create that unified engagement model. Second is, like you already mentioned, that we have IP-driven games, we have a sports simulation game, many different kinds of games. So depending on the games, what we are trying to do, because AI is a buzzword, it's very easy for everybody to mention AI, but I think all of us would agree that creating that change at the ground level takes effort. Cultural change always is a lot more challenging than, than really the concept around it, the vision around it. So I think that's where we are spending a lot of time in creating task forces across multiple streams. For example, art and design, we have plethora of tools and available today. What we are trying to do is looking at some of these studios to kind of start experimenting solutions and trying to see what is coming out. And the important part is when we talk about Gen AI especially, while the technology is evolving rapidly, but still in terms of a use case, you would see many of those solutions serve you at 40% efficiency. And that's where many of the teams kind of start giving up because they are expecting 100% change, which never is easy to expect. So I think being patient around some of these cases as the evolution happens, that's another thing which we are trying to say, how can we work very closely with our partners to see how these tools would finally end up maybe in a 6 months time or 1 year time, become really tuned to what we need.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So just,
Aakash, you want to
just to add on that one, right? Because I think I worry about this a lot, right? Which is a common theme we have seen, and this is in discourse, and the difference I see between the Bay Area and spending time here, right, is this exact difference, right? Wherein we as investors worry a lot about this, that in India, we are waiting for things to happen, right? Whereas when you see the same thing happening with your peers on the other side of the ocean, they're actually solving for it and doing scaffolding on whatever exists today to make it work, right? I think this difference can hit us very hard. Like it's a big worry at the back of our heads.
Making the 40% into the 100%.
Because that is not going to get done just by, you can't wait for it to happen. You can't wait for it to turn up and someone coming with an off-the-shelf thing which works for you, right? You have to, if you're in any business, forget interactive media in general, right? With AI, you do need to set it up internally, work on it today, set up the scaffolding that is needed to go from that 40 to 80 to 90, right? You have to do it. And if you're not going to do it, I like to use the word checked, don't get checked, don't let it happen what happened to check.
Aakash, we should get you into our meetings for Google Cloud,
Yeah. just to add on to what Aakash is saying, for example, like right now we have started, like our philosophy is think big, start small. Otherwise, you'll get stuck in the larger implementations. So what we are also looking at, maybe a 2-year horizon, to say, can we have AI agents as a complete workspace across multiple streams? Can we have AI first games which are developed, right from the design, the concept level to the final output? It's completely it's AI supported across different streams. Can we build personalization where you have AI companions, you have levels which are created, curated based on the player? So all these are those bigger vision which we are chasing on the path. So that's where I think the larger vision also to know how will you really transform the player experiences or the existing work streams. I think that motivates us, but we are right now working very hard on the ground to kind of see many of these use cases become a reality.
Yeah. So maybe a final question for both of you is that I think the sexier parts of it tend to be in the pre-production, using it as a co-pilot, but really the boring parts are the playtesting, the QA, all of those things. Are you currently seeing anybody building in that space? Are you all building with all your portfolio at Jet or with Anand with your games in any of those areas? Or it's still very human and manual?
I'll maybe take a stab.
A huge amount of playtests and QAs are happening in interaction, in like AI interactions at our studio all the time now.
Okay.
It's become a way of life now. But again, like those areas I know that we'll continue solving for. For me, like,
you're building these yourself, or you working on off
stacks, like,
okay.
whatever, like Hugging Face, GitHub Zindabad kind of thing. But a lot of stacks keep coming. We keep trying them. All the game designers at our studio, they are very, very AI proficient in that sense. They use AI as natural language.
So making teams more efficient is broadly the space your studio ends up working in.
It's definitely a use case, a huge use case. Of course, early artist, early art brainstorming, pushing its levels to what can be done. We're talking to all the guys who are like from various parts of the world, the Soras of the world, and to see how we can use. Telling them what we need, solving problems at a first level, at a creator level, all of that. But for me, the problem is still and will remain. What is it that there is the slot machine philosophy of using games, which is that you create engagement constantly, you create micro engagement at every level, you create these dopamine channels and you hack into them. And the question for us is never that. We know that can be done. It's plug and play. You can spend 20 years learning how to do that through multiple media. We know that can be achieved. For us, the question is always, and that's really, that to my mind at least answers the question, or not the question, but the comment that you made, which is that why is it that we as a region have not been able to produce games that were produced 10 years ago, even after we had a 3-year, 4-year runway. And that to me is the answer that we feel most excited to solve, which is to think about why we do something, why humans behave in the way we do, and apply that even in something as small as a tiny little tabletop game. Like that's probably going to be played by 1 million people in the world and, have business of $30, $40 million at best. But even within that, apply the kind of logic, the kind of thought process, the kind of worldview, the kind of philosophy that has to go into creating behaviors at a second by second, microsecond by microsecond level. A lot of times that I see my peers, they end up solving, and wonderful, and I'm not like talking down at the problems that they solve, because these are real problems, like you rightly said, problems of design, problems of engineering, problems of lag, problems of instant responses, and problems of micro ads and whatever. These are all real problems. These take like a lifetime to solve, but we get so lost in solving them that we have not invested sufficiently in creating the thinkers, and that's what we do as a studio. And you know this, of course. Now you do it with us. That we like create like at Google and everywhere else. I think that's a philosophy that excites me the most, which is how do we kind of think about creating. How do we create spaces and create languages, create syntax that can be used by designers who are not creating PUBG or not creating games that were created 2,000 years ago, but are creating games that we ought to be playing and are not yet playing.
Anuj, final words on this?
Yeah. So I think the unsexy jobs of gaming, so to say, the porting, the localization, all of those are going to be the first mass use case of AI at a first level that will get disrupted. That's my opinion. I think what is going to be super interesting is the gaming meta. Getting, there are now tools coming up that is, helping game developers monetize better through the personalization offer and live ops journey. I think for me next year that's going to be a very interesting space where game developers building games and who want to enter a certain market do not have ideas about eCPMs, how to monetize that user will be able to. So in a way it's counterintuitive, but indies that are producing really, really good games are at an advantage using AI that can help them become mid-size or large-size studios, because fun and creativity is where the power will be shifting to when using tools.
Thanks. I think we've almost out of time. Couple of quick questions, if any, from the audience, which we can take. If there are any hands up, yeah, there's one there.
Hi, Apanav this side. You've gone on and on about different tools that are already available or are in development currently, and you guys have already talked about what could be used into pipelining our developments.
Can you speak a little closer to the mic? And
is it better now?
Yeah, and just because in the interest of time, ask your question and just address it to which speaker you would like the question
I would
to be
ask it
addressed.
to you in person as well. Technically, what I'm trying to ask is, with all these tools that are becoming mainstream and easily available for any indie dev to even try out, when do you think the entire paradigm shifts that, end to end we can make an entire AI developed game? Like completely, the entire pipeline is something that you could develop with. Like what I'm trying to get across is, when does the entire paradigm completely tabletops,
I mean, there's that Gibson quote, like the future's already here, just not distributed evenly yet. If you saw that presentation with the game engine, that entire game is basically created using a model. How hard is it to do it? It's incredibly hard, because number one, the computational cost to do Doom using that model would be ridiculously expensive. It was to be democratized with everybody at IGDC. It's far cheaper to do it currently using the tools that we have. So if there's a fully generated game world which is interactive, that is in the realm of possibility. It has been proven literally in this year, and twice in this year with the side scroller, with what happened with Genie and what happened with game engine with Doom. So it's done in both in 2D as well as in 3D.
I think there was an example of Counter-Strike as well done with generative AI.
Could be. I haven't seen that. I can only talk about what we have done at Google right now. So I can see that being done. But yeah, like I said, it is in the realm of possibility. It is not something which I guess everybody could access right now, because you would need the training infrastructure that somebody like a Google or any of a hyperscaler has. So I don't know if that answers your question, but what I'm saying is it's possible, except that it's not cheap.
One thing I couldn't really get across that you brought up is living games as something that would be the next thing one could look into. Like, could you elaborate it just a little more, because I couldn't get your point across.
Okay, great. I'll do a better job of putting my slides together next time.
So sorry,
do you mind if we talk about it separately? Because I would love to see if there's another question.
Thank you.
That was feedback on his slides, I think.
Huh?
That was feedback on his slides.
Yeah, I know. Point taken. Humble feedback noted. Sorry, there's a person there with a hand up. Again, in the interest of time, if you could just ask the question and address it to the speaker.
Hello, my question is to Mr. Anand.
Anand?
Yeah. As you said, you are looking into creating thinkers who can think and do creative kind of things, right? After the AI boom has happened and a lot of menial works and small things can be done with AI, how do you suggest the new generations to prepare for critical thinking and other kind of things? So how to be a thinker that you just said earlier?
Okay. I think the question is, how do you actually create thinkers for the new generation, because AI is around and they do all the thinking for you? Is that sort of a summary? Have I done a good
No,
No, that's not bad.
AI does
Slides
not do
are
the
wrong,
thing.
somebody is
AI
wrong.
does what you said. AI does what you say it, yeah. So, how do you prepare thinkers who can say what to do to AI in the future?
Yeah, that's a big question, right? That's the question in front of humanity, I guess now. AI is going to take away 99.9% of our legwork. So what are you going to do with that 0.1% time? I don't think it's a question that can be answered with a bumper sticker, really. It's not a trivial question. It's a largely existential question now.
It's a 6-hour drinking session.
Sorry?
It's a 6-hour drinking session now.
It's a 6-hour drinking session, yeah. But yeah, I mean, but if I were to give a bumper sticker, it would be that we are still in the driving seat, and we hopefully try and stay in the driving seat, in the steering seat, and imagine the direction that we want to go to, which is what we do as humans. We speculate the direction, we predict the direction that we want to go to. What AI can help us do is hopefully get to those directions more effectively and efficiently.
Great. Yeah, sorry, that gentleman in the specs with the brown shirt, yeah.
I think the next speaker is on.
Oh, okay.
What we can do, you can be our own and they can ask you questions personally.
All right. We can just probably take that last question and we can close that then. Yeah, you can just say it. Yeah, sort of.
I've been exploring building Copilot for playable ads. Basically, you test out the game IPMs and CPIs, everything beforehand, and it's a easier game to build, right? Like the very minor stuff. So I just wanted to understand your thoughts on the future of that as an input for me to go forward with.
Future of?
As in using AI to build playable ads.
Playable ads. Any three of you guys?
Anybody? Deepak.
Yeah, so I think UA as a whole is seeing a lot of use cases. So right from playable ads to having your creatives based on analytics, what you see, getting those inputs in terms of different elements and breaking down a creative. So I think we are seeing a lot of, so obviously that is a use case we are already working on, and there are multiple tools available or solutions available. So yeah, I think that's something which is already happening.
Yeah, great. Thank you everyone for your time, and thank you for the panelists.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right, come. Please, see you man. Photograph, chalo. Chal photograph.